Chosen one, stop. Put everything down and be still right where you are. Do not scroll past this, because what you are hearing did not reach you by accident, by luck, or by the pull of your thumb. God arranged for these exact words to find you in this exact hour, and He is telling you one thing. This Tuesday is not an ordinary day on your calendar. It is a threshold. On one side of it stands the reduced version of you, the one dimmed by years of fog and striving and disappointment. And on the other side stands the person you were always meant to become, clear, awake, alive, in a way you have not felt since you were young. This Tuesday marks the beginning of that new you, not because a date is magic, but because it is the moment you finally choose to cross. So, be still, because in the next few minutes you are going to see exactly what has to be released, what has to be restored, and how to make sure that when Tuesday comes, you actually step across instead of watching the moment pass. I want you to notice something before we go further. When I said a new you, a part of you leaned in. A part of you that has quietly known for a long time that this dimmed and tired version of yourself was never the whole story, that there is more in you. That knowing is not wishful thinking, it is a memory of who you actually are. If you have felt that, do one thing for me. In the comments below, write the words, "I am ready to cross," not for me, for you. Because the first thing a threshold requires is someone willing to admit they are ready to leave the old side behind. Here is what almost no one tells you, chosen one. Becoming a new version of yourself is not mostly about adding things. It is about crossing. There is an old self and a new self, and the space between them is not filled by trying harder to improve the old one. The old one does not get upgraded. It gets left on the far bank. So this is not a message about self-improvement. This is a message about a crossing that has your name on it, dated for this week, and about making sure you are one of the few who actually steps across. So let us begin where every real crossing begins, chosen one, with where you have been, because you cannot understand the new you without honestly seeing the old one and the life it has cost you. Let me describe a person and see if you recognize them. There was a time when you were young, when you were vivid, your mind was quick, wonder came easily. You felt things deeply, dreamed without permission, and the world seemed lit from within. You did not have to work to feel alive. You simply were. That was not naivety. That was you, running as the instrument you were built to be. And then life happened, slowly. Year after year, the disappointments stacked, the responsibilities multiplied, the wonder thinned, and somewhere along the way, without any single moment you could name, the vivid one dimmed into someone quieter, foggier, more tired. Someone who manages instead of creates, someone who copes instead of dreams. You did not choose that dimming. It happened to you, the way it happens to almost everyone. And the cruelest part is that you began to believe the dimmed version was simply the adult truth of who you are. You called it maturity. You called it realism. It was neither. It was a slow reduction you mistook for growth. Chosen one, hear me clearly. That reduced version of you is not who you are. It is who you were worn down into. And there is a vast difference between the two. The person you were built to be did not disappear. They got buried under years of fog and fatigue. But buried is not the same as gone, and a threshold is precisely the place where what was buried gets to rise. So this is the first thing I want you to release tonight, before we go any further. The belief that the dimmer, foggier, more tired version of yourself is permanent. It is not. It is a condition, and conditions can be crossed out of. We will call the person you were worn down into the reduced self. And this Tuesday is about leaving the reduced self on the bank you have been standing on far too long. And let me say something to the grief underneath all of this, chosen one, because there is a particular sadness in remembering who you used to be. In catching a photograph of yourself from years ago and seeing a light in your eyes that you are not sure is still there. That grief is not self-pity. It is your spirit refusing to accept the reduction as final. People who have truly given up do not grieve the loss. The fact that it still aches means the vivid one is still alive in you, still pressing against the fog, still waiting to be let back out. Honor that ache tonight. It is not your weakness, it is your compass, and it is pointing straight at the far bank. So let us look honestly at where you are standing right now, chosen one, on this near bank. Because you cannot cross a river you refuse to see. Notice how the reduced self moves through a day. You wake already tired before the day has taken anything. You reach for your phone before your feet touch the floor. The fog rolls in when you try to focus and lifts only when you distract yourself. You walk into rooms and forget why. You feel a low, constant hum of not enough, and you have quietly decided this is just who you are now. It is not who you are. It is the signature of an instrument running at a fraction of its power. And I want to show you the mechanism, because once you see it, you can never again mistake the reduced self for your true self. Here is what happened as you were worn down. The mind you were born with was designed to run as a single, unified whole, both sides awake, both sides speaking to each other, the part of you that senses and dreams, working in full communication with the part that reasons and acts. That was the vivid state of your childhood, when clarity and wonder cost you nothing. That was you at full power, but the noise, the stress, the years of fragmentation, they slowly pulled the two halves out of sync, and a mind out of sync runs dim, not broken, dimmed. The fog, the fatigue, the sense of moving through water, that is not your character. It is your synchronization, lost. And the whole distance between the reduced self and the new you is not more effort. It is the restoration of that lost synchronization. This is the first breakthrough, chosen one. The dimming was never a verdict on your worth or a permanent fact about your character. It was a condition of your instrument, and a condition is not a life sentence. It can be reversed, which means the new you is not something you have to invent from scratch. It is something you have to recover. The vivid one is still in there, waiting on the far bank, waiting for the synchronization to come back. And here is the part that should make you angry in the best possible way. Chosen one. The dimming was not fully your doing, but you were handed the bill for it as if it were. You were told the fog was a discipline problem. You were told that if you just pushed harder, wanted it more, the vividness would come back. So you pushed, and it did not come back, and you concluded the fault was in you. It was never in you. It was in the instrument, dimmed by a world that profits from your exhaustion. If that just loosened something in you, mark it now. In the comments, write the words, "This is not who I am," because you cannot cross away from a self you are still convinced is the real you. The false identity has to fall first, and here is where it falls. Now let me hold something in front of you before we go further, chosen one, because I promise to show you what has to be restored, and part of that answer comes from a place you would not expect. Over the past few years, something was uncovered in research laboratories that most people who care about the things we are discussing have never been told about. Not because it contradicts anything sacred, but because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. A group of neuroscientists, led by a doctor in New York, found something about the way the human mind is built that explains exactly why we start life vivid and dim over the years, and why that dimming is not permanent. Something so fundamental it traces all the way back to a Nobel Prize. I am going to tell you exactly what they found later in this message. But right now, hold this question. What if the new you is not something you have to build through years of discipline? What if it is the original you, the vivid one? And what if crossing back to it is more possible and more physical than anyone told you? Hold that question. It has an answer, and the answer is coming. For now, let us stay with the crossing itself, because you need to understand what kind of change this actually is. Most people, when they hear new you, imagine improvement, a better morning routine, more discipline, a tidier version of the same tired self. And they spend years on the near bank, renovating the reduced self, and wondering why they never feel truly different. Here is the truth. You cannot improve your way across a threshold. Improvement keeps you on the same side of the river, just with a nicer house on the bank. A threshold is not an upgrade of the old self. It is the end of the old self as your identity, and the beginning of a different one. And that is why it feels so significant, and why something in you both longs for it and fears it, because a real crossing costs you the person you have been. And this Tuesday is asking whether you are willing to pay that particular price in exchange for the person you were always meant to be. And let me clear away one more piece of confusion, chosen one, because it stops so many people. You may be thinking, if the new me is really the old me, the childhood me, then is this just nostalgia? Am I being asked to go backward? No, you are not going back to being a child. You are recovering the child's clarity and carrying it forward into everything the years have taught you. Imagine the vividness of who you were at your most alive, joined to the wisdom, the depth, the compassion you have earned through every hard season since. That combination has never existed before. That is not going backward. That is the most forward thing you have ever done. The new you is the vivid one and the seasoned one, finally in the same body. So let me show you who is waiting on the far bank, chosen one. Let me cast the vision of the new you so that it can begin to pull you across. Picture waking a few months from now with a mind that feels like your own again. Clear the way it was when you were young, the fog gone, sitting down to the thing that matters and finding, instead of resistance, that the ideas arrive, ordered and alive. Picture feeling deeply again, dreaming again without asking permission, sensing the nearness of God the way you did before the dimming. That is not a fantasy of a different person. That is you, restored, the one who has been waiting on the far bank the whole time. And you are not the first to be given a new name at a threshold. There is an old account of a man named Abram, ordinary, aging, his best years seemingly behind him, whose life God interrupted with a promise and a new name, Abraham. And the new name was not a decoration. It was a declaration of who he was becoming, spoken over him before there was any evidence for it. He had to cross into it, live as the new name before the old circumstances caught up. The threshold came first. The becoming followed. Hear what that means for you, chosen one. Heaven does not wait for you to become the new self before it names you. It names you first, and the naming is what pulls you across. This Tuesday, a name is being spoken over you, not reduced self, not tired, foggy, behind. A new name, the true one, the vivid one. And your work is not to earn it. Your work is to answer to it, to step toward it, to cross. And let me tell you why the vision matters so much, chosen one, not as a daydream but as a force. The reason most people never cross is that they can no longer picture the far bank. Years of the reduced self shrank their imagination until the vivid one became unimaginable, and you cannot walk toward a shore you cannot see. So the first act of the crossing is not effort, it is vision. What you can see clearly, you can move toward. The vision is not decoration on the crossing. It is the rope thrown across the water. So let us begin the crossing in your body right now. Close your eyes if you are somewhere safe. Take one slow breath and let it out. Now picture the near bank you have been standing on, the whole tired weight of the reduced self, and picture yourself turning to face the water. On the far side, faintly at first, the vivid one, clear and awake, holding out a hand, and take one step in your imagination off the bank you have been stuck on for years toward the one you are becoming. Feel your foot leave the old ground. That is all a crossing ever is at the start. Now I have to name something directly, chosen one, because if I do not, it will stop you at the water every single time. The old self does not go quietly. The reduced self resists the crossing. Watch how it resists. The moment you begin to move toward the vivid one, a voice rises. It says, "Who are you kidding? You have tried to change before. Remember how that ended. Better to stay on the bank you know than to hope for a far shore and drown in the trying." That voice sounds like caution. It sounds like wisdom. It is neither. It is the reduced self fighting for its life, because a crossing is the one thing it cannot survive. Understand what is happening. Every part of you that organized itself around the dimmed life has an interest in keeping you dim. The lowered expectations, the safe smallness, the comfort of not risking hope again. These are not neutral. They are the near bank holding onto your ankle. And the fear you feel as you approach the water is not a sign the crossing is wrong. It is a sign the crossing is real, and that the old self knows it. There is a second resistance, quieter and more painful. It whispers, "Who are you to become something new? Look at your failures. People like you do not get a new beginning." Chosen one, hear this carefully. The new you was never a reward for a flawless past. If it were, no one in history would have crossed anything. The threshold is not earned by your record. It is opened by your willingness. And your willingness does not run on your worthiness. It runs on your readiness to leave the old bank behind. And notice the sneakiest form the resistance takes, chosen one. It disguises itself as tomorrow. It says, "Yes, cross, absolutely, but not this week. Wait until things settle. Wait until you feel more ready." And because that sounds so reasonable, you agree. And Tuesday passes, and then another, and then a year, and you are still on the same bank you swore you would leave. The reduced self does not fight the crossing by saying never. It fights by saying later. And later is where new selves go to die. This is exactly why a marked day matters. A threshold with a date is the one thing later cannot survive. So feel where that lands. Some of you just felt something unclench that has been clenched for a very long time. That is the old self loosening its grip. And in a few minutes, when I show you what was discovered in those laboratories, you are going to understand why the crossing was never only a matter of willpower, but of something physical that finally has a name and finally has an answer. Stay with me. We are cliffs now. So let me give you the roadmap, chosen one, because a crossing is not a leap of blind hope. It has a shape, and I want you to see it clearly before Tuesday. Every real crossing has two movements, a release and a restoration. First, you release what belongs to the old bank, the identity of the reduced self, the story that the fog is who you are, the striving that never worked, the disappointment you have carried like luggage you forgot you could set down. That is the release. You cannot cross a river holding the weight of the bank you are leaving. And second, you restore what was lost. This is the part almost everyone misses, because they think becoming a new self means acquiring something they never had. It does not. It means recovering something that was taken, the vivid mind, the synchronized instrument, the clarity you were born with and were slowly worn out of. The new you is not an acquisition, it is a restoration. You are not becoming a stranger. You are becoming yourself again. Now, let me close a loop I opened earlier in this message. I told you there was something discovered in research laboratories that I would come back to. The reason I waited is that what they found is not merely information. It is the restoration half of the roadmap made physical. A solution only becomes useful once you understand the full shape of the problem it solves. You now understand the shape. You are finally ready to hear the answer, because you finally know the question. Before I give it to you, let me be honest about the timing, because I named this Tuesday and I want to be truthful about what that means. Tuesday is not a magic date. Nothing supernatural happens to the air on a Tuesday. What makes it a threshold is not the calendar. It is the decision. A threshold becomes real the moment you choose to treat it as one. Tuesday is simply the marker I am asking you to plant in the ground, a line you draw and say, this is where the reduced self ends and the crossing begins. The power is not in the day. The power is in the choosing. And let me name the two banks clearly, so you never confuse them again. Chosen one. The near bank is where you keep waiting to feel different before you act differently. It is the place of one more season of preparation, one more attempt to fix the old self before you dare become the new one. The far bank is where you act as the vivid one first, and let the feeling catch up. You do not wait to become new before you move. You move, and the becoming follows the movement. Identity does not lead the crossing, it answers it. So make the choice now, ahead of time, if you intend to cross this week. If you are done standing on the near bank, go to the comments and write the words, Tuesday, I begin. Say it as a commitment, not a wish, because a crossing declared out loud is a crossing already underway. Now let me take you to the deepest layer, chosen one, the one underneath the fog and underneath the fear, because this is the breakthrough that will change how you pursue every change for the rest of your life. Here is the pattern almost no one sees. You have been trying to become the new you with effort, more discipline, more willpower, more forcing yourself to be better, sharper, more alive. And every time the effort collapsed back into the same tired self, you took it as proof that you simply lack what it takes. But watch what was actually happening. Effort is the language of a mind that is out of sync. When the instrument is dimmed, the only tool it has left is force. And force is exactly the wrong tool for a crossing. You cannot strain your way into becoming vivid. Straining tightens and fragments the very instrument that needs to come back into sync to become clear. The harder you push to be a new self, the more you reinforce the exhausted patterns of the old one. This is the cruelest loop in the whole mechanism. The reduced self makes you try harder, and the trying harder keeps you reduced. You have been trying to cross the river by swimming upstream against your own current. And this is why the new you has felt so impossible despite all your sincerity. It was never that you did too little. In a sense, you did too much of the wrong thing. You brought force to a threshold that only opens to release and restoration. The instrument does not need you to try harder. It needs to be brought back into sync. And when it is, becoming stops being something you strain toward and starts being something that unfolds. Let me name this loop so you can catch it every time it returns. We will call it the upstream struggle, the exhausting attempt to force your way into a new self using the depleted energy of the old one. Once you can name the upstream struggle, you can stop it. The next time you feel yourself gripping, white-knuckling your way toward change, you will recognize it, and instead of pushing harder, you will do the one thing the loop cannot survive. You will release and let the instrument be restored. But here is what most messages like this never say. Chosen one, and you need it before we go on. Everything you have understood tonight is true, but without what comes next, it will work at a fraction of its power. Understanding why you are stuck is not the same as crossing. Insight is not transformation. And the reason knowing all of this still has not produced the new you is not in your mind. It is in the instrument, in a place you have not yet looked. And we are about to look there together. And notice how freeing this is, chosen one, if you let it land. For years you have carried a low, grinding shame about your own inconsistency. You would start strong and fade. You would resolve to change, and watch the resolve dissolve within days. And you read that as a flaw in your character, a proof that you are the kind of person who cannot follow through. But if the fading was the instrument running dim, not the soul running weak, then the whole story of your inconsistency was misread. You were not failing to try. You were trying to run a marathon on a battery at 10% and blaming yourself for getting tired. Set that shame down. It was never yours to carry. So let me set down the imagery for a moment, chosen one, and tell you the whole thing in the plainest words I have, because you have earned plainness after everything we have walked through. Here is the why. The new you has not arrived, not because you lack willpower and not because the vivid one was never real, but because the instrument meant to carry that vividness, your own mind, has been running dimmed and out of sync for years. And a dimmed instrument cannot produce a vivid life no matter how hard it is pushed. Here is the what. The two halves of your mind were designed to work as one unified whole, the way they did in childhood, when clarity and wonder needed no effort. Modern life gradually pulls them apart, producing the fog, the fatigue, the sense of being a reduced version of yourself. This is not a character flaw. It is a physical condition, and physical conditions have physical answers. Here is the who. You are not a person whose best days are behind them. You are a person whose instrument dimmed while the real self waited, intact, on the far side of the fog, which means the new you is not gone and was never out of reach. It is waiting on the restoration of the instrument, and that restoration is no longer only a matter of decades of struggle. And hear this plainly too, chosen one, because it is the whole hinge of the matter. The reason this is good news and not one more burden is that it takes the weight off your willpower and puts it where it belongs, on the restoration of the instrument. You have spent years believing the new you required a strength of character you were never sure you had. It does not. It requires a clear mind, and a clear mind is a physical condition that can be restored. The crossing was never a test of whether you are strong enough. It was always a question of whether the instrument gets tuned back to the state it was built for. Now sit with the weight of that, because it deserves a breath. The clarity you have received tonight is real, but clarity alone is not the crossing. You now know what has kept the new you buried. You know it was not your fault. You know it has a mechanism. The only question left is the one that has always mattered. Now that you know, what do you do with it before Tuesday? That is the threshold we are about to step through together. And on the other side of it is the answer I promised you at the very beginning. So here is the answer I promised you, chosen one. And it begins, of all places, with a Nobel Prize. In 1981, a scientist named Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for proving something about the human brain that most people sitting in spiritual communities have never been told. He showed that the two hemispheres of the mind were designed to work in synchronization as one unified whole. When they are synchronized, the mind enters what can only be called whole brain activation. The intuitive and the rational awake at the same time, running as the single vivid instrument you were born to be. And here is what will stop your breath. As children, around 98% of us test at the level of creative genius in this synchronized state. By adulthood, fewer than 1 in 1,000 still maintain it. The synchronization does not vanish because we failed. It erodes because modern life, the noise, the stress, the endless fragmentation, gradually pulls the two halves out of sync. The dimming you have lived with is the physiological signature of a whole brain that has fallen out of synchronization. Exactly what we have been describing all night, now with a name and a mechanism proven in a laboratory. This is the reduced self, explained. Let me tell you about 2 people before I tell you what was built from this. A woman from California had tried everything to feel alive and clear again. Prayer, journaling, meditation, every practice her community offered, and she kept arriving at the same dimness. After 10 days of something new, she said a channel that had been blocked was suddenly open. Not because she tried harder, because the receiver had been repaired. A man from Texas described the same. Someone who held everyone together while his own interior life grew thin and foggy, until his mind felt like it was moving through water. 2 weeks later, he woke with his mind running clear again, sharp and present, and the fog he had stopped even noticing was simply gone. That is because of what the team I am about to describe discovered. A team of neuroscientists led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York spent years taking over an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol used in specialized medical settings, and through an intensive process of refinement, compressed it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day. Headphones, eyes closed. That is the entire physical requirement. They call it the genius switch. It is not a brainwave product, not a meditation app, not a mood sound. The genius switch is a targeted auditory sequence engineered on the Nobel research of Dr. Sperry to reconnect the 2 hemispheres and restore the vivid, synchronized whole brain state that was your default in childhood. The exact state the new you is made of. If you tried binaural beats before and found them hollow, that is because sound alone targets only a fraction of the picture. What Dr. Barone built targets synchronization at the whole brain level. A different mechanism, a different category of result. And now I have to tell you who this is for, chosen one, because it is not for everyone. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that God prepared not only the new self, but the mind that must be clear enough to become it. The person who has been sincere for years, who has kept reaching for the far bank even when the crossing felt impossible, and who is finally willing to stop treating the fog as a permanent character flaw and start treating it as something with a specific address. Most people who hear about this will scroll past. They have accepted the dimmed version of themselves as who they are now. But you are still here. That is not coincidence. That is the exact persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. Let me tell you what something like this costs, so you understand what you are looking at. Colleagues of Dr. Barone suggested it would be incredible value even at $500. In-person neurofeedback runs $300 an hour. A home machine costs $7,000, but it was not released at $500, not at $200, not at $100. It was released at $49. And today, on the direct page, there is an additional $10 off, which brings it to $39, plus 4 things included at no cost. A guided visualization from a top-rated creator on the Calm app, a grocery guide showing which common foods deepen mental fog, saving over $100 a month, a manifestation text more than 100 years old, and a printable guide of the 5 habits that most shape a future. All of it included. And here is the part that should settle every fear before Tuesday. It is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. Listen to it once, listen to it 80 times. If it does not do for you what it has done for 18,000 people, every dollar is returned. No conditions. The entire risk has been lifted off your shoulders. Let me be honest about the timing too, not with pressure, but with truth. Every week, the synchronization stays disrupted is another week, the vivid one, waits on the far bank while the reduced self runs your days. Not because the new self was withdrawn, but because the instrument that carries it is still dimmed. What is waiting for you deserves to be met by the full version of you. One thing worth naming directly. If you search for anything that sounds similar to this, you will find imitations. Dr. Barone and his team studied them, and most carried no real neural sync technology at all. The name is easy to copy. The mechanism is not, and it only exists in what his team built. The direct page is the only verified source, and that is where the link below points. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link in the description and in the pinned comment points to where they made it available. You can read everything on their page before deciding anything. And now let me bring us back, because a tool is only ever a tool. It does not replace God. It does not cross the river for you. It does not release the old self for you or make the decision you alone can make. What God is doing in you is not conditional on anything you buy, but a tool that restores the dimmed instrument, simply gives the crossing more of what it needs to actually happen. The deeper current of this message, and the threshold in front of you, is where we return now. And let me speak to the part of you already doing the math, chosen one, weighing whether this is worth it. Here is the honest frame. You have spent years, maybe decades, paying the price of the dimmed mind in a currency you rarely count, the ideas you never finished, the clarity you needed for decisions and did not have, the prayers that felt like they hit a ceiling, the version of your calling that stayed just out of reach. That is what the reduced self has been costing you, quietly, every single day. The question was never whether restoration is worth a small price. The question is how much longer you are willing to keep paying the enormous one. So come with me now, chosen one, all the way to the far bank, because I want you to stand for a moment in the life of the new you before you leave this message. Picture it as real. 6 months from now, on an ordinary morning, you wake and your mind is clear. The fog that met you every day for years is simply not there. You think a thought and it is sharp. You feel a feeling and it is deep. You pray and the nearness lands. You sit down to create, to build, to love, to lead, and the vivid one does it. The one who was buried for so long, now running your days instead of the tired one. People who know you notice something in your eyes came back on. That is the ordinary result of a synchronized mind, restored. That is who was always waiting for you to cross. And for the chosen one who felt something wake up when the vivid self was described, that door is still open in the description. It is a small step, but small steps taken from a clear mind have changed entire seasons and entire lives. And let me tell you what to expect in the first days after you cross, chosen one, so the old self cannot trick you at the threshold. The vividness will not always arrive as fireworks. Often, it arrives as a quiet return of small things. Color that seems a little brighter, a morning where the fog is thinner, a moment of clarity in a decision that used to paralyze you. Do not dismiss these as too little. They are the first signs of a synchronized mind coming back online. Honor the small returns, and they will grow. That is how a crossing consolidates, not in one dramatic leap, but in a steady, unmistakable brightening of a life that had gone dim. Now let me give you something to carry across the threshold, whether or not you ever take that step, a way to begin the crossing with nothing but your own attention tonight. So, follow me. Close your eyes if you are somewhere safe. Take one slow breath in and let it out slowly. Now picture the reduced self, the tired, foggy version, standing on the near bank behind you, and simply thank it. It carried you through seasons you could not have survived otherwise, and now its work is done. Now turn, in your mind, to face the far bank and see the vivid one waiting, clear and alive, wearing your face the way it looked when you were most awake. And take a full step toward them and say, quietly, inside yourself, I am crossing. I am coming home to who I was made to be. My mind is clear. My true self is restored. Feel that settle into your body and take one more breath and let your eyes open. Whatever you felt in that crossing, however faint, that was the beginning of the real one. Hold it. And if this reached something true in you tonight, mark it in the comments with the words, I am crossing. Because what you declare out loud, you begin to become. So let us begin to seal this chosen one before you step back into a week that will try to keep you standing on the old bank. I want you to notice how far you have come in these minutes. You walked in believing the tired, dimmed version of yourself was simply who you are now. You are leaving knowing that was never you, only who you were worn down into. You walked in thinking a new self had to be built through years of striving. You are leaving knowing it has to be uncovered, recovered, crossed into. That is not a small thing. That is the reduced self, losing the grip it has held on your identity for years. So let us release it fully now. Wherever you are, let your hands open, palms up, and let go. Let go of the years you spent blaming yourself for a dimming you did not choose. Let go of the story that your best days were behind you. Let go of the striving that only kept you exhausted. Let go of the fear that people like you do not get a new beginning. Let it all fall from your hands like the weight of a bank you are finally stepping off of. Release the disappointment. Release the self-condemnation. Release the small, safe life the reduced self begged you to settle for. It has done its work, and its season ends here, at this threshold, tonight. And before you rise from this, chosen one, let me give you one instruction for the days between now and Tuesday. Do not tell the old self your plans and then negotiate with it. It will always talk you out of the crossing if you give it the floor. Instead, plant the marker quietly and firmly and let the decision be already made before the resistance wakes up. When Tuesday comes, do not deliberate. Do not wait to feel ready, because readiness is a feeling the reduced self will never grant you. Simply begin as someone who already decided. The crossing belongs to the ones who move before the fear finishes its argument. Let that be you, and as your hands empty, let them be filled instead with the truth you came here to receive, that the vivid one is real, that the crossing is possible, that this Tuesday, the marker you are planting in the ground is the beginning of a self you were always meant to become. Breathe it in slowly. There is no rush now. The old self is behind you. The new one is near, and you are already crossing. And now hear who you are, chosen one, because this is the name that was buried under all the years of dimming, and at this threshold you can finally receive it. You are not the tired one. You are not the foggy one. You are not the reduced, behind, worn-down version the years tried to convince you was permanent. You are the vivid one, the clear one, the awake one, the chosen one whose true self is being restored and whose crossing has already begun. Say it with me, out loud if you can. I am becoming who I was made to be. The old self is behind me. My mind is clearing. And this Tuesday, I begin. Let that be the true peak of everything we have walked through. Not a shout, but a declaration steady enough to build the rest of your life on. You are crossing. You are clearing. You are becoming. And the far bank you have looked at for years is finally under your feet. If everything in you says yes to that, seal it now in the comments with 2 words. It is done. Write them as a declaration over your own life, because the mouth confirms what the spirit has finally received. And do not keep this crossing to yourself, chosen one. There is someone in your life standing on the same near bank you have stood on for years, convinced their best days are behind them. You do not have to preach to them. You only have to show them there is a far bank, and that a threshold with a date is something anyone can plant. Sometimes the most sacred thing one chosen one can do for another is simply to say, that tired version is not you, and this week can be the beginning. The new you was never a fantasy, chosen one. It never was. It was only ever the real you, waiting on the far side of the fog for the moment you chose to cross. So plant the marker, guard the crossing, protect the instrument coming back to life. And when Tuesday comes, step across with the quiet certainty of someone coming home to themselves. It is sealed, and so it is.